To this week's Facebook Live. I hope everybody's well. We're going to talk about a subject, I suppose you could say everybody does it, gossip. So we're going to talk about gossip and its effect on people's mental health, not just the person who is being gossiped about, but also you if you're listening to it, or if you're watching it even on social media. Because let's face it, everybody gossips. Now, I'm not talking about you yourself going and talking to a best friend or family member in confidence about what's going on in your life and getting things off your chest. I'm talking about other people talking about somebody who isn't there. We all know what gossip is. You know, it's not just something women do. Although, women can be accused of doing it, men do it just as much. So it is, it slides across the genders. And people listen. They love to hear somebody being put down for some reason. I don't know why. Um, you have to go and look at the research maybe as to why people do it. I'm going to talk about a few reasons people do it, but why we love it so much, I don't know. Maybe it's that rebuilding of them and us. It could be. Gossip, as we know, occurs in many settings. You'll find it in the workplace, school or college, online, among the family, friends do it about other friends. It usually involves, as I said, the spreading of personal information, or what seems to be personal information, because it's not always truthful, about somebody else without their knowledge, for the most part, and definitely not in their presence. Um, you know, Reasons we know of that people do this is out of jealousy, revenge of some kind, to increase their social standing, one-upmanship. Particularly happens with men, to be part of the group, to feel accepted in a group. So you might have, in an office situation, you might have two groups, actually two cliques as they might be called, gossiping about each other to put each other down. To gain attention for somebody wants to gain attention for themselves. To feel better about themselves. People who gossip want to, feel better in themselves because I'm putting somebody else down. Um, because for the simple reason, people who do gossip, or gossips as we like to call them, um, they do tend to have low self esteem. They have problems with their own identity. They can have very high levels of anxiety. So they're hoping to divert attention away from themselves and onto other people. Um, you know, if you are listening to it, and if you are not, say, in the group that does that, got that click that does it, you may be standing back a bit and you'll be going, "Whoa, that's a very negative person." And they tend to be very negative, and as I said, they're trying to divert attention away from, don't look at me, look at them. That's the kind of thing you're doing here. So people want to avoid them. People want to avoid people who gossip. They're untrustworthy. They see them as untrustworthy and very negative. Thoughts of, well, if they're talking about her or him, then they must be talking about me when I'm not around. That usually is what enters into your head. Even on a subconscious level, you'll have that weariness about being around somebody who gossips. So then, how does gossip affect people? Well, there's two ways. It depends on whether you're being the one that's been gossiped about, or whether you're the one that's listening to it. Um, so if you're the one that's been gossiped about, it's got huge implications for your mental health. The whole aim of gossip is to cause pain in some way, to cause shame, humiliation, to ostracize, embarrass in some ways. So your self confidence is going to take a knock and you will hear back. Somebody will always tell you you're being gossiped about. Your work or your school work suffers. Your home life is affected because your mental health is so badly affected. You feel you don't trust people around you even. So, your higher levels of depression can occur, anxiety, stress levels go up. Um, and then if it happens within the family itself, of course it's going to cause relationship breakdowns, rifts within the family unit. Because you've nobody to turn. Who can you now trust? The people that are supposed to be there to support you, who can you trust? And of course, we do know that gossip can be used as a means to target somebody. So sibling rivalry, um, people in those situations, adult sibling rivalry, they'll use gossip among sibling adult rivalry. You'll see that within the family and even with friends. They'll try to get your friends on their side. Um, Domestic violence, another way gossip is used to undermine you in domestic violence situations. You'll see it with narcissists, you'll see it with bullies in the workplace. They will again use gossip to target the person they're bullying. So then what happens to your mental health if you're the one listening to this gossip? Because you're not immune, you're hearing this. And particularly if you're watching it online, and it is so prevalent online, and we tend to not notice it as much. Maybe but we're constantly reading it. Some news about a celebrity that's sensationalized, or a politician or something, but it's still gossip. And it does get in on you, even on a subconscious basis. It gets in on your mental health. You're constantly listening to that criticism of somebody else. That's going to trigger your own inner dialogue, your own negative inner dialogue, your own cognitive distortions that we would have, the perfectionism, the people pleasing, all or nothing thinking. There's a variety of those there. So your confidence is going to take a knock. You'll have to be a very strong person for your confidence not to take a knock on this one. Your own, you're going to feel undermined as a person. Um, it's like, I could be next. And as I said at the start, if they're talking about that person, then they must be talking about me when I'm not in the room. And you're probably right, they are. Because that's what gossips do. They thrive on this stuff. They thrive on getting that little piece of information and passing it on to somebody else. And it's never with good intention. So it's reinforcing your own negative thinking about yourself and kicking off those ideas that you might have, those underlying negative beliefs, core beliefs that you might have for yourself, about yourself. Like, I'm not good enough, I'm a failure, I can never get anything right. So whatever's going on in your own head, that's going to be triggered. So your self-confidence and your anxiety and your stress, and it may trigger a cycle of depression for you if you happen to suffer from it. So we have to protect ourselves against that. So how can we do that? How do we protect ourselves from gossip? Some situations, of course, are easier to avoid than others. Particularly if it's family related, it can be a little bit more tricky to deal with. With social media, you have options of turning off social media, minimizing the amount of time you're on social media, or unfollowing people who spread gossip, or hatred or anything like that, to minimize your contact with that on social media. Don't repost it. Don't engage with that person in the first place online. So you want to avoid them. That's what you're trying to do there, is avoid them. In person, it's a bit harder. It really is a bit harder. You can try and minimize your contact with the person, depending again on your particular situation. Where are you? Is it a family member? Is it in work? You can probably try and avoid the person in work, or a neighbour, or somebody further out from that circle of trust. You're in the middle of the circle of trust. Those closest to you will be in that, closer to you in the circle of trust. Those that maybe a work colleague that you don't really work with, they're there, they work for the same company, or a neighbour that you don't really interact with, they're on the outside. So you've got to, where are they on that circle of trust with you? Can I minimize contact with them? Can I get away from them? Don't engage with them. Don't pass it on. So, you can change the subject. Try and change the subject. People love to talk about themselves for the most part. So try and change it to a subject that's general. Maybe something, the weather or something, or I have to go, or kids are waiting for me. Move away. Have an excuse that, you see this person coming. You have that excuse ready at the top of your head, and you just move away. You don't stand and engage with them, is what I'm trying to say there. So, gossip does die a death if it has nobody to pass it on. So you've got to decide, am I the person that's just not going to pass it on? If you're a bit more confident in and of yourself, perhaps you'd be willing to address the person who's the gossip, and to address it head on. But you have to feel very, confident in and of yourself to be able to stand up to somebody like this. And it's probably a group of people, and tell them, I'm not willing to listen to this. I just don't want to hear this. And as I said, you could change the subject. You could challenge them. You could use logic. You could be assertive, and you could explain to them, what you're doing here. Explain the effects that it's having on the person. You can, of course, offer friendship to that person that is being gossiped about. Give them somebody else to talk to. Help them. Maybe talk to HR. Seek counselling. Because gossip, you have to remember this, gossip, if you're the subject of gossip, it is so isolating. They need a friend. They really do need somebody in their corner. So perhaps that's your way of helping. So I'll leave it there. As always, if you'd like an appointment, you can book an appointment with me through my website. You'll find a link in the description below. And as always, hello to Deirdre, good morning. Hoping that the clouds in Wexford will clear up for us all today. And we'll have a lovely weekend. Have a safe week. And I will talk to you all again, as always, next week. I can't remember what next week's blog's about, but it'll be something good as always. And I'll leave it there. Thank you for listening.